Hello, friends. On June 6, 2021, it will be exactly 10 years since I moved to live in Montenegro. In this regard, I decided to make a sort of anniversary video with my thoughts on life in Montenegro. I'll start with why and how I ended up here in the first place. You know, many people, I'm not sure if it's the majority or not, but at least men generally don't strive for anything in life. For them, the main thing is stability. For some, that's put in stability. For others, it's social stability. In any case, as much as I observe people, most of them complain about wanting some kind of stability. But I have always wanted to live well. For me, the ideal way of life is the life in Switzerland. My worldview, even back when I was in school in the 6th grade, was greatly influenced by one book. It was a book, or rather, the books by Theodore Dreiser, The Financier, The Titan, The Stoic. 3 books dedicated to the life of an American millionaire who managed to build a very large business from scratch. I still remember what was written on those books by the Russian, how should I put it? Well, the people who decided whether these books could be published in the country during the times of censorship. So they wrote something along the lines of, look at how American businessmen exploit ordinary people, that they live surrounded by gold while regular people earn relatively little. But I saw something completely different. I saw that one person, one intelligent person, willing to take justified, calculated risks, can achieve a bright future for themselves. Not for everyone, not for the whole society, but for themselves they can. I saw that and realized that this is what I want to strive for. Back in school too, during the socialist era, shortly after reading those books, I made an attempt to start a small business. At that time, of course, business was forbidden in the USSR. You could say I operated underground, and not for long, because those were socialist times and it was forbidden to do such things. Thank God those weren't Stalinist times, so I wasn't imprisoned. But naturally, I had to stop everything. And after that, I realized that I somehow needed to escape to the West. So I started making plans to escape to the West after finishing school by crossing the ice of Lake Ladoga. Fortunately or unfortunately, the USSR collapsed and I didn't have to flee to the West. Moreover, after the fall of the USSR, I put aside all these immigration plans for about 20 years because it started to seem like capitalism had finally come to us. That is, you could start a business here, you could get rich here. There was no reason to run away anywhere. That was the biggest mistake of my life, which probably set back my development by about 15 years. Of course, I should have left right away and tried to do something in the West. But I tried to start a business in Russia, where it is incredibly difficult to do so, even compared to Montenegro. In Montenegro, doing business is not just one level, but several levels easier than back home. That's how it is. So what made me eventually return to the idea of emigrating and actually emigrate, it was because I went on vacation to a normal country. That country was the Czech Republic. You know, of course, I had been abroad before that, but I had visited countries like Romania in 1991, back when it was still socialist Romania, which naturally did not impress me. And then later on, in my more mature years, I went to places like Egypt, Turkey, and so on. Naturally, none of those places really made me want to emigrate. Then I came to the Czech Republic, saw how people lived, saw that it was actually possible to live well, and that a good life, by the way, a good life doesn't just mean a good income, because income is a multifaceted thing. I told my wife, literally on the 2nd day of our stay in the Czech Republic, I told her, that's it, we're going to emigrate. Well, she supported me, and we really did leave soon after. I don't understand why all the other people who also come somewhere see how life can be, why they don't come to the same conclusion and do the same thing. Probably all Russians like the same things about Montenegro. First of all, Montenegrins are extremely friendly people. Living in Montenegro, the risk of encountering rudeness is extremely low. Secondly, Montenegro is a safe country. From a Russian perspective, Even in the most crime-ridden cities of Montenegro, such as Bar, there is virtually no crime at all. As for crime in the Bay of Kotor, for example, in Herceg-Novi, there's even less to talk about, since crime in this region is 10 times lower than in Bar. Let me remind you that from a Russian perspective, there is no crime in Bar, even though it is still 10 times higher there than in Herceg-Novi. Thirdly, Montenegro has wonderful environmental conditions. Even in such a cool country as the Czech Republic, for example, the air doesn't feel as fresh as it does in Montenegro. Well, it's somehow inappropriate to even compare it with the ecology in Russia. Fourthly, Montenegro has a great climate. It's moderately hot in the summer, and both spring and autumn are quite warm. In winter, the temperature on the coast during daylight hours rarely drops below 8 or 10 degrees Celsius, and sometimes it even reaches 20. Fifthly, prices in Montenegro are lower than in Russia. Granted, not for everything, but for a lot of things. People often ask me what it's like to live in Montenegro, whether I enjoy living here, and if I regret moving to Montenegro. To be honest, questions like that amuse me a little. If I didn't like living in Montenegro, I would have gone back home a long time ago. Immigrants don't need to get a residence permit to return to Russia. Here's another interesting question. Many people don't understand what you can do in Montenegro in the winter. Guys, in winter, you can basically do all the same things in Montenegro as you can back home. Plus, since Montenegro is a warm country, there are opportunities for walks here. In Russia, when it's minus 20, you can't really go for a walk, but here it's quite possible. Also, the country is small, so everything is close by. So that means sightseeing trips, for example, to the ski resorts as well. This year, for example, I went to the ski resort probably 6 times. Here in Russia, I wouldn't have gone that often, simply because it's too far to travel there. And a couple more words, since we started talking about winter in Montenegro. Is it true that Montenegro dies out in the winter? No, that's not true. Or rather, that's not entirely true. Of course, there are far fewer people outside the season than during the season. That's undeniable. But I don't know about you, I personally don't really mind the lack of people. As for the establishments that supposedly close for the winter, first of all, establishments can be, how should I put it? There are different types of settlements. There are large cities, for example, Budva, Herceg-Novi, Tivat, Bar, and so on. The hustle and bustle there never stops. And then there are small towns, suburbs, for example, in Herceg-Novi. There's Bausici, Genovici, and the like. There, indeed, cafes do close for the winter, but first of all, not all cafes close only, let's say the not so great ones. The good cafes are open all year round and moreover are well attended. For example, in Genovici, you can stop by the Galet Cafe. It's always open, the food is delicious, the prices are reasonable, and they don't even think about closing. It's simply a good cafe, they've made a name for themselves, and people keep coming back. I even go there from Herceg-Novi, even though there are plenty of cafes much closer to me. That's it. In the cities themselves, in the largest cities, it's mainly just the summer cafes that close, meaning those cafes that simply can't operate in the winter. For example, Barbarella. They have 5 or 6 tables outside, but there's no indoor area where you can sit down to have coffee or something to eat. So naturally, they can't operate during the cold season, they close, and other similar cafes as well. But those that have both a terrace and indoor seating operate year-round. Now, about utility costs in Montenegro. People often ask about this too. It's something that concerns people. Utility costs in Montenegro are about the same as back home. I know that in Russia there are a lot of stories about how supposedly utility costs in Europe are very high. I won't speak for all of Europe, but as for Montenegro, that's not the case. The payments are about the same as back home. Yes, electricity is more expensive, and yes, you use more of it, but at the same time, there are no payments for gas, no payments for hot water supply, and no payments for heating. In the end, it all balances out to about the same. The highest bills are in winter and summer, and the lowest are in spring and autumn. On average throughout the year, it might be around 100 euros per month or even less. Probably if you add the internet, it would be about 100 euros per month. That's right. My favorite sites in Montenegro. In fact, the country is incredibly beautiful and there are a lot of attractions here. Right now I'm at Sveti Stefan. It's a very beautiful place. But if we're talking about my favorite attraction specifically, I think I love Jablek the most. It's a national park. It's both a town and a national park in Montenegro, the Durmitor National Park, the town of Jablek. I really love it. There are so many beautiful, stunningly gorgeous places there. And I also really love Lovćen. So I think these are probably the most interesting sites in Montenegro, at least. If you love nature, you definitely have to visit them. The climate in Montenegro is amazing. I don't know if it's better in Europe or not. I haven't traveled all over Europe, but out of the places I've been, this is truly the most comfortable place in terms of climate, the most comfortable place on the planet. I mean, I've been to a lot of places. I've traveled all over the former Soviet Union, well, almost all of it at least. I've been to several countries in Europe, in Asia, and in Africa, but I still haven't found a more comfortable place yet. Yes, health is actually a very important issue, by the way. I started to feel much better here, a lot better. In Russia, I had problems with my lungs. We had Gazprom right next door. Well, where I lived, Gazprom was right next door. And although I know, of course, that Gazprom is a national treasure, it has a very negative impact on health. Plus, there are cars, so the environment is terrible, the food is terrible. 10 years ago, I had a lot more of this than I do now. And it kept increasing every year. I thought, damn, by the time I'm 50, I'll be walking around with a belly like this. You know, there are a lot of guys with big bellies like that. They don't look huge overall, but their stomachs really stick out. I thought, well, I'll probably end up like them. I came here, the environment is different, the food is different. All the pain in my lungs disappeared right away. It went away very quickly. I started losing weight. By the way, I don't have the problem of my stomach sticking out anymore. On the contrary, my problem now is that I weigh less and less every year. I feel great. I didn't feel this way 15 years ago. Good environment, good food. Plus, I also run. In fact, I've been running for about 7 or 8 years now. Honestly, I tried to start running back in my homeland. I first tried to take it up when I was 15, but there the conditions just aren't right. It's either too cold or unbearably hot, or there are gnats or swarms of mosquitoes or poplar fluff flying everywhere. Here, the climate is much more favorable for sports. For many years now, I've been running regularly 3 times a week, 3.5 kilometers each time. And there are now opportunities for, let's say, a variety of leisure activities, which probably existed in Russia too, but they just weren't as accessible there because the country is so big. It takes longer to get anywhere. The climate isn't the same. The warm season is shorter in short for various reasons. For example, we've gotten into traveling here. That is, well, Montenegro borders Albania, Bosnia, Serbia, and Croatia. So you can easily go to any of these countries. Plus, there are also many wonderful places within Montenegro itself that you can visit. In the city where I lived before, the nearest attraction worth visiting, well, not the one people actually visit. Sometimes people visit all sorts of nonsense that, in my opinion, isn't interesting at all, simply because there's nowhere else to go, but people want to go somewhere, so they go anywhere they can. The nearest attraction truly worth visiting was about 700 kilometers away. And by the way, there aren't really any proper roads in Russia, 700 kilometers. So basically, you can't really travel around much. Here, it's much easier. For example, I just got in the car now. I didn't just come here to shoot a video. I had some errands to run and decided to film a video while I was at it. You've only been out and about for an hour and a half, Stefan, you see. That's it. You can get to Perast in about 40 minutes, I think. The town is under UNESCO protection. It's a beautiful little town. You can get to Kotor in an hour also, UNESCO World Heritage Site. You can get to Dubrovnik in an hour as well, also under UNESCO protection. So there are a lot of amazing places, both in this country and in neighboring countries. That's why traveling is much easier. Plus camping, of course, you could do that in Russia too, but all the options there are limited. Here you can go wherever you want. Over there, there's a good auto camp, or you can go somewhere else, whether it's in this country or a neighboring one. We've camped in so many different countries already. And on top of that, I got into skiing. It's 2.5 hours from me to one ski resort, 4 hours to another, and 4 hours to a third. 3 ski resorts, all between 2.5 and 4 hours away. Take your pick. There are ski resorts in all the neighboring countries. I don't know about Albania, but at least in Croatia, Bosnia, and Serbia, there are ski resorts too. And actually, in Serbia, they've just built such a resort. It's not even just a resort, it's a mega resort. Next year, I definitely want to go there and check it out myself, so to speak. So far, I've only seen it on YouTube, and it looks amazing. I need to go and see it for myself. In Sarajevo, rather not exactly in Sarajevo, but near Sarajevo, also in Bosnia, there's an excellent resort. They even held the Winter Olympics there 1 year. In short, there are way more opportunities for active recreation here than back home. Now, about inflation, you know that in Russia, prices are constantly going up. Many people think that it's different in Europe. In Europe, it's the same, with the only difference being that they grow much less here than in Russia. So in Russia, well, there really is high inflation, while here it's slow, small, but it still exists. So little by little, every year something gets more expensive. That's how it is. Our VAT was raised. When I came here, it was 17%, then it became 19%, and then it went up to 21%. Right now it's 21%. Naturally, when VAT goes up, prices respond to that as well. Little by little, everything still gets more expensive. But even so, I still wouldn't say that this country is expensive. Prices are about the same as in Russia. Some things cost more, but some things are cheaper. And when something is more expensive, it's usually not because the business owners here are greedier, but simply because the quality is better. Good cheese, for example, should cost more than cheese made from palm oil. So that's basically how it is. That's why some things here are more expensive. But, well, many things are cheaper. For example, real estate is cheaper here than in comparable locations in Russia, say in Sochi. In Sochi, real estate is much more expensive than it is here. What has changed in Montenegro? Well, what has changed? All countries develop, and Montenegro does too. Gradually, there is an increase in the number of services and the variety of goods. So if 10 years ago, a lot of things weren't available here, now you can find, well, if not everything, then at least almost everything. In short, everything an ordinary person needs for life and happiness has long been available for sale here. There are some exceptions. For example, I can't find the cordless phone I want to buy. I'm probably going to, not a cordless phone, sorry, a wireless microphone. I'm probably going to order it from Russia now. One of my clients has just gone there on business. I'm thinking of asking him to bring it back for me because it's not available here. And by the way, I Googled, it's not available in any of the neighboring countries either. Not in Albania, not in Croatia. And not in Bosnia either. Well, I didn't bother Googling in Serbia. It's too far to go shopping there. So aside from that, of course, the country is becoming more beautiful. You look around and there was a neighborhood that used to be, well, not very nice. And then suddenly they've completely redone it and now it's much more beautiful. So they're building roads. Yes, of course, the roads here were already much better than in Russia, but now they're getting even better. They've even started building a highway here. In other words, there's this kind of trend, you could say, toward positive changes, and it's ongoing. Basically, this was to be expected. We see pretty much the same trend, in fact, in all European countries. And I also want to talk about the attitude toward Russians. Russians are loved in Montenegro, and it's genuine. It's not just that we come here with money, and that's why they like us. They clearly remember that even our Tsars helped Orthodox Montenegro 300 years ago. They remember this, and they value it. For example, I didn't know about this until I moved to live in Montenegro, but they know it and talk about it, that's it. So apart from Montenegrins, maybe only in Serbia do they love Russians more there. Everyone is basically a pro-Russian fanatic. I've been to Serbia many times and I really felt that. But in Montenegro, honestly, it's not much different. Will joining NATO and European integration change this trend? Actually, it all depends not so much on Montenegro, but on Russia. It depends on how they will treat each other. Will Russia try to put obstacles in Montenegro's way or not? That is, if they treat us kindly, then Montenegro will respond in kind. Yes, right now I know that many Russians, you can feel it, and the president of Russia as well, they are clearly very offended by Montenegro for supporting the sanctions. Friends, this is probably nothing to be happy about, really. But on the other hand, you have to understand that this is a small country that cannot pursue a completely independent foreign policy. Moreover, this country is not just small, it is a country that is striving to join the EU, the European Union, and accordingly, if the European Union has imposed certain sanctions, then essentially they had no choice but to support them. It's not because they have some kind of negative attitude toward Russia here. It was simply a forced measure. As for the Montenegrins themselves, I haven't really discussed this with them, but I'm absolutely sure that the Montenegrins themselves do not support these sanctions. They just had to do it. They had no other choice. Friends, I hope you found this video interesting. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.